Oh, hello there, outliers. Niiamah here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. I am like recognizing that maybe you can hear it through the air. Like I'm like legitimately smiling because we have today an incredible roundtable of just like exceptional people and trailblazers. So today we're going to go deep in how their experiences led them to go down their own paths and how they leverage it in their business and the impact that they're making right now. Right? So why don't we get to know our trailblazers for today? Christina, I'm going to start with you. You mind sharing more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Absolutely. I'm Christina Marlette. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And the game I love to play is the energy game. When I was in high school, I saw my parents needing coffee every morning to be energized. And I just thought, I'm never going to do that. I never want to rely on anything outside of my body for energy. And I have been fascinated in all kinds of energy ever since, how to have overflowing energy, how to not get depleted, how to be vibrant and healthy energy. So that is the game that I play.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I think that the energy game here, especially for the level of gameplay that the Outliers and Trailblazers like play, like a lot of times people go down like the productivity route, but I'm like, hey, more than time management, there's energy management. And how do you play that? And so, Christina, I'm excited to go and explore a little bit more with you. All right. Glad to hear. Brandon, how about you? Let us know more about you and the game you're playing.
Okay, my name is Brandon. I'm from Miami, Florida. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. The game that I'm playing is, how can I describe it? I would just say that I think that all of us has um, a foundation inside of us. My foundation resides in Christianity, and I'm not to bring up religion or anything like that, but for me personally, it's just more so about um, trying to operate um, as my best self and show up as my best self. And self development for me, and just understanding the word and keeping my faith alive is something that is very important to me. And I think that you can't do nothing without faith and or self development.
Well, Brandon, I'm glad you're here. I'm excited to see how we play with all this here. And I think that there's, especially with yeah, there's a lot. There's a faith to me is like a really big word, especially with the games that we're playing out here. So I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for coming in, Chris. Let's get to know you here. Mind let us know more about you and the game you're playing.
Yeah. Brandon, my dad was a pastor. So
Oh,
I know that game. The,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, look, I feel like I'm in the game of helping people unlock new levels of ingenuity and clarity. I spent a lot of time in innovation economy working with startups and entrepreneurs and people who were trying to find uncommon paths forward and ended up, learning about trauma recovery, learning about transformational leadership, having a background in like stand-up comedy and comedy writing and marketing. And just looking at the psychology of how people play the games that they're playing and kind of helping them unlock some new paths and avenues that they may not have recognized, seen, knew existed, all of the above. So it's a fun game because it's very individual based, even though a lot of what people are creating is for the collective. So that's the game.
Ooh, we have ourselves here, round table. I'm excited to play along with you here. Chris, I gotta say there was something when you said ingenuity and innovation that like really like sparked me. There was it was something I haven't actually heard people like say too often, and I'm really curious for each of you here. When you like, what got you to the place of owning what it is that you do, like and bring it out in a way where it's like, hey, this is the way that I talk, like this is my thing. You know, I'm really curious about how each of you took that on here. Chris, since you sparked this in me, we mind getting this started, and then we'll just go around here.
Short answer is therapy. you know, I think, as Brandon was talking about a little bit about personal development and self-development and like realizing like all of my, like, I'm a very much a multi-hyphenate person, right? Like I can go from comedy writing to like talking, about the latest in AI development. And for a long time, I didn't think those two personalities belonged in the same room. And it wasn't until I started like just like letting a couple of little drops out, of my like silly self in a business context and my business self in a silly context. And I was like, oh, this is my sort of unique, entry point is into culture, right? And testing it out. And I think it took a little bit of experimentation and, like letting go of who I thought I was or who I thought I needed to be in order to quote unquote succeed. And that was kind of like one of those first steps. And so I lead with a lot of levity, a lot of like lightness, but I can go as deep as, you know, required in any moment. So yeah, that's kind of like how the blending of selves came to be.
That's awesome. I'm like, what will happen in this conversation is like, I'm gonna let it be like more free flowing. So I'll toss a question in here, and then y'all can just unmute and just let us know how you want to play. Christina, I see you. Why don't we just keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say now I have the awareness of this. Uh, I follow my intuition and my inner guidance and the prompts from the divine to make my choices on how I proceed. It has to be a feeling. It often needs to be really persistent, tapping me on the shoulder, like, hey, remember this? And I say I didn't always have that language or that awareness because when I first started on my spiritual journey, I didn't even know what intuition was. I'd never heard of the word before. I knew that some people were psychic. I knew I wasn't that. And then I started working with coaches and doing personal development, and spiritual development was wrapped into that. And people started telling me, like reflecting back to me, you're so intuitive, Christina. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Over time, that was a few decades ago, over time, I've really honed that intuition. And so I'm multi-passionate. I love doing lots of different things. I was just getting my eyebrows done today, and I was telling the woman, she was asking me what I do. I'm like, well, this and this and this, and her eyes just got bigger and bigger. And all of it, like I'm getting better and better at this, is what I choose to focus on needs to make me feel fully alive. And I once heard a minister say, you don't need to know your purpose. Like everyone's running around stressed out. What's my purpose? What's my purpose? And she said, you don't need to know your purpose. You just need to do what makes you feel fully alive. That's enough. And I adopted that as my own outlook. And so that's been a driver is what makes me feel fully alive. It's my family. I'm so passionate about my kids and my husband. We just celebrated our 27th anniversary. And thank you. And then I am super passionate, like I said, about energy and then teaching people how to just feel better and expand and expand and expand on a soulful level.
I suppose it's my turn. So, okay, for me personally, um, growing up, um, I'm not gonna say I come from like a rough background overall, but I've had a lot of like mental trials, I guess you can say. And for me, from the beginning, it was always about, you know, just figuring out who I was and figuring out, how I want to operate and conduct myself in this world. And to do that, before you get to that point, I guess, I suffer from like depression. And so me personally, I just felt like, why are you in this state of mind? And I needed to, I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to smell the flowers and pick roses and things like that. So for me personally, my platform is just about self-development and expressing it, because what's the point of self-developing if you can't help or teach or share some light on yourself? Is you don't have to be perfect, and because who is really at the end of the day. So I mean, to me, to sum it up, it's just about self-development and expressing um, my aches, for
Yeah.
lack of better.
Yeah. I love it. I think for both you guys is like the idea of being fully expressed. And that
Yeah,
could be in things you might consider challenging for other people to experience.
yeah,
It's like, I don't want to say that because I think they might respond this way, right? But that practice of full expression, it can be like nerve-wracking to start, no matter what support systems you have, at the end of the day, you gotta like somebody once said to me, you do the lonely work. It's like it's easy to be motivated when you have the conversation, or if you go to see the keynote speaker, or you're in church or wherever you might be, and then it's Tuesday and it's 11 o'clock and you're at home alone in your kitchen, and you're like, what is the conversation you're having with yourself at that point in time?
right,
That
right.
just takes a lot of practice. Like, oh, is this what I'm thinking about all the time? Are these my thoughts?
Yeah,
That's wild.
kind of
Like,
makes you like analyze it and like, why am I thinking these thoughts? Like, why is it even conducted in this format? Like, um, but yeah, I think, yeah,
Speaking of that, over the past couple of years, doing all the soul searching, and I love to take big esoteric ideas and make them super practical. So you know why you're doing it, and then you know what to do as a human being so that you continue to grow and expand. And over the past couple of years, doing some really powerful practices, I've learned that watching that voice in my head, I'm like, it's a courtroom drama in there. And there is an inner lawyer who loves to debate with no one and loves to have all the arguments ready. Just in case someone ever does say this to me, then I'll be ready. And over like just realizing this has been such a huge gift because now I can say, oh, we don't need to be in the courtroom. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not interested in that at all. And now I've developed this ability more to say, okay, we don't need to plan what's going to be said because I trust that source is going to come through me and that I'm going to be fully expressed in the moment and I'm going to say the right thing at the right time, and I don't need all this planning. So that has been a huge relief to notice that and then to be able to do something about it.
for
yeah,
sure.
I think there's a lot of like, I think a lot of people think you're supposed to eradicate those kinds of thoughts, like the chatter and the negative talk, like all the things. And it's really about managing those things when they come up. Like any like seasoned therapist or somebody who's like really well developed in that space is like, I just spend less time with the challenging parts, because I have whatever, a dozen different kinds of tools I can pull from to like get through those moments. And I just remember like I talk a lot about like in the beginning capturing your thoughts and you're like, man, is this what I think about? And it becomes like a lot of work to like monitor your thoughts. And then eventually I feel like the dial shifts and it's almost like you have a butterfly net and you're like, oh, there's one. I got one, right? Like I got another thought. Like it's less work. It's more just like maintaining your garden, right? But the
Right.
planting of the garden is a lot of work. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Y'all are fun. Yeah, Christina, I saw you here. Is there something you want to add
I
into the
did want to add
conversation?
a little
Yeah,
nugget that
yeah,
has
go.
made the
You're
hugest
good.
difference in my life and in the lives of my clients and the people I work with is, yeah, there's the old paradigm of negative thoughts are bad, you need to stop them. And the newer paradigm that I've been exposed to that is just so beautiful is we, whenever something comes up and it has a more contracted type feeling, like what we might call a negative thought, the idea now is to expand it by loving into it. So when I notice that courtroom drama, I say, oh, little lawyer in there, I love that you're trying to be so planned. Thank you so much for showing up. Or, oh my gosh, mind, I love that you're trying to be perfect. Or, I love that you're trying to be right. I'm not going to listen to you, but I do love and appreciate you unconditionally. So thank you so much. And as soon as I've started doing that, those parts are like, ah, I can relax. I don't have to work so hard to get you to notice me anymore. So what I've learned is that love is the universal solvent, and the more love we can pour into the parts that especially seem unlovable, everything improves.
Right. I agree. I agree with that one.
Y'all have got me. You have me playing a little bit here. I like the way the conversation's going. Thanks for letting it flow. There's something that showed up in this conversation that I think it is that's playing out for me, which is uh, Christina, you described yourself as multi-passionate. Chris, you talked about being multi-hyphenate. And as I work with outliers slash trailblazers slash world shapers slash change makers, like and go on and on and on, I feel like this component of being more than being all of who you are is really the high place here. So I want to speak to. I'll probably ask a couple different questions about this, right? And what I want to see is how you leverage your outliers edge. I believe that the hyphen is part of the edge, right? And so I'm really curious about how you take the things that have almost nothing to do with what you do right now and leverage them to make them almost like the core of what you do right now. What are some things that you did in the past that are being able to still inform and augment what you do now to make it its own unique blend? Anyone want to start us off on that one?
I can because I was just talking about this with a group of soul sisters the other day. So when I started, I won't go into my gigantic, complicated history, but when I started entrepreneurship on my own, my whole thing was called Dance Ugly, Dance Awkward. And it, uh, I loved doing that. It's very successful. And then my clients had such radical changes, and I wrote a book because I'm like, what's going on here? I need to get clear on it. So I wrote a book called How Ugly Awkward Dancing Changes Everything. As I was publishing my book, my website got hacked, blacklisted by Google. It was very dramatic. And so I felt like, okay, that chapter's closed. I moved into what I do now, which is called Courageous Self-Care, which is a bigger umbrella that more things can fall under. And it's coming. It's so super interesting. That book was written 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And all of a sudden, Ugly Awkward Dancing is coming up again. And I was saying to my soul sisters, like, this is so interesting. Like, I kind of thought I was done with that. It feeds into courageous self-care, but it's not what I do anymore. But I've been next week, I'm going to New York to do a media pitch for the opportunity to be on shows and be in publications. And they're really interested in Ugly Awkward Dancing because that would be good on TV, right? So I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting that that's showing up again. And I feel like because there's been no attachment to it, then it's ready to move through. When we have attachments, we have tension, and what we want can't get to us. So there's no attachment to anything to do with ugly, awkward dancing. And ta-da, here it is, ready. And I tend to be a pioneer, like I think that's an outlier type thing. And because there's no one doing the combination of what I do, so you have to make it up yourself. And it feels like, oh, this is people are ready for ugly, awkward dancing, finally, 11 years later. So I'm just being really open to whatever's wanting to come through. Of course, I can be passionate about that again. And it's not like I stopped dancing. And it's not about dancing like Elaine on Seinfeld, just by the way. It is what I think is beautiful is when human beings dance. And what's ugly and awkward is the thoughts we have as we judge ourselves. So it's more about live life with freedom and screw how it looks. Doesn't matter what other people think, just live and be free.
Right, right. I I I resonate with, your story because honestly, you know, how I got on this platform right now is I guess centered around like the podcast that I have, and I honestly haven't been releasing podcasts in maybe well I released one a day honestly, but in like the last 2 to 3 years I haven't been releasing. I haven't been in front of the mic sharing my voice and my expressions and things of that nature. And it's kind of like when I chose to let it go and kind of control less, I guess you can say. Um, opportunities like this started revealing themselves. And honestly, even this opportunity, it took me a little minute to get around to it, just because your mind is very deep. It can be deep if you allow it to get deep. So yeah, I think as humans we like to control majority things. And for me, things work and happen when I control less.
Yeah. It's like when you let go and you're like just kind of guided by something else. Like that's what trust in the broader macro ecosystem of it all is, being like walking hand in hand or arm in arm with it. And sometimes you're like a couple steps behind, sometimes you're like a little too far ahead. It's learning that thing. I think I love that question because it's like the first thing that came to mind for me is that I was a swimmer from the time I was like 5 competitively to a master's team a few years ago. And, swimming is really interesting as a sport because team sports, I remember I played basketball in 7th grade at a YMCA thing. And I was like, when the whole gym was mad at me because I missed a pass, I was like, nope, if I fail or win, it's gonna be on me, right? Like, and so swimming, you're face down in the water unless you're doing backstroke, but like you can't hear a lot of outside noise. You can barely see the people who are in the other lanes, even on like track, right? And then you can also have a few different races, right? I swam butterfly, I also swam the individual medley, and I swam freestyle. Like those, so it's like, are you kind of have an expertise or you have several expertises? And it is just kind of you and I have coaches who are like, you're just trying to beat your own time, right? Like it's yes, you're in a competitive sport and there's 7 other lanes here, but like, can you do better than you did in the yesterday or in the meet before? And every practice is the same thing. And you might be practicing butterfly one day, and like there's something like that's just a little bit off. So what can I tweak? What mindset can I like adapt into? And I think that's just kind of I don't think I've ever put that parallel together before. But and I speak in a lot of parallels, especially when I'm working with my clients. And like things like, I mean, the concept of transferable skills, where I mean, I just kind of compare swimming and entrepreneurship, right? Like and I like to help people find those common traits so that nothing feels like too big of a leap. Like you already have a bunch of skills you think you don't have, they just were in a different container. And, so like you take the lid off, look at it, pull it out, you're like, oh, this fits perfectly here. I didn't think of it that way. And so no, I like just making waves. That's all. Just making waves.
Christina, I got a little bit curious here because there was something Chris said that you're just like vigorously in agreement with, like curious about what's playing out for you right now.
I, yeah, I just tend to express a lot
Yeah.
visually. So,
Yeah.
I used to be a phys ed teacher and a dance teacher, and I was just resonating. Well, this is interesting because when I grew up, I was a team player, like I played volleyball and I played field hockey, and then I also grew up dancing competitively. So that was like a team sport. You do have to rely on everyone in your group. And then when you're old enough in the dance world, you can start doing solos where you just rely on yourself. And so I totally get like the whole gym mad at you.
Right?
And then my husband and I do a lot of coaching as well. So like that's next level responsibility. We've coached lots of volleyball and field hockey uh, and track and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just interesting to reflect on that. And then what did you else you said? Um, that we have lots of skill sets. So it was making me think of an exercise I did once at a retreat where the idea was that your whole past experience is a workshop. And on the floor, you have remnants of all the different things that you've worked on. And so the exercise was to write down like what's on your workshop floor. And it could be like specific skills that you have, like swimming, for example, or it could be values that you have, like faith. And it was just pages and pages of what was on my workshop floor. And I found that exercise to be so valuable to help remind me that, oh, yeah, I've done a lot of things. And I had a coach once who said, like, if you're not confident in this area, you can borrow that confidence and bring it over to this area. And then she said, and if you're not confident at all, you can borrow mine because I have lots of confidence in you. So those are the things that I was thinking as I was vigorously nodding my
On
head.
the confidence piece is kind of crazy. Like I always feel like there's always a new plateau to reach, right? There's no such thing as quote unquote expertise. It's just like you just keep going. And that's why I always say like I like to help people unlock new levels of ingenuity and clarity. And I'm thinking about like maybe 3 years ago, I started doing this deep end fitness class where it's like it's 2 hours long. You're doing like long underwater swims. I've been in pools all of my life. And I went through a mild panic because you're doing like extremely long breath holds, like a minute, 2 minutes long. There was one point we played a game underwater, which is called like it's the Underwater Torpedo League. So it's like soccer or football underwater. And they teach you how to not panic. And here I am, somebody who's like, oh, I think I'm pretty skilled at this thing. And then I was like, oh, getting in the water to do this is no problem. And I think most of us, like whatever that next level of goal is, I don't care how much expertise you have, there's going to be some level, some degree of hesitation, nervousness, fear, all the things that come up. And it's just learning how to like manage like we were talking about earlier, it was like manage those emotional experiences as you're building and creating stuff.
I really love the element. I'm thinking about the water right now, and the going from just the element of like holding your breath. It's like you've done it. It's now coming in a different context, and it's going a lot longer than what you're used to. Um, there's something in there that I really love in the context of this conversation because a lot of times it could I think we take things to what's new, what's different, right? And yet sometimes it's like doing the same thing but with longer intensity or being able to bring it out for a longer period of time. Like right now one of my big edges is to not do new, but it's like how can I like do the same and better? And that was like I was very gung-ho. I was like different is better than better. Different, like why be better when you can be different? And now I'm playing with this edge of like, oh, but like what if like your difference made it better? Like what do those two things line up? So I appreciate that reflection here with the water and with swimming and holding the breath because I'm like, it's the same thing. You've been doing the same exercise, you've been doing this component, but different environment, different context with longer duration and higher intensity, and all of a sudden it's something new. I think that like, especially for me as someone who likes shiny objects, like when you put it in, when you say it, you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, I can do more of the same and still have it be novel.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me personally, something and putting my energy and my time into is trying to be uh, persistently consistent. So for me, it's more so yes, you are a great human being. You have the abilities to get to said goal or get to said place and do certain things but okay, but for me it's more so like, okay, how long can you do this? And when you do it for as long as you will do it for, you will be in a different room, uh psychologically, I guess you can say. And I think to piggyback off of Chris, when you were speaking about panicking, I grew up playing football. I played quarterback and cornerback. So for me, I feel like I've always had a lot of pressure on myself, and I guess you can say you can like Christina, I believe you said you can take different uh uh topics or different tools, I guess you can say, and bring it over here. So like okay, in the water, if you panic, more than likely you might drown. So it's as a life lesson. I think panicking doesn't help at all in any aspect, because you're gonna freak out mentally.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I wanted to piggyback off of.
No, I love that. I love thinking about like worst case scenario, right? I think a lot of us avoid that because you're supposed to be positive. You're supposed to like fill in the blank of good, quote
Right.
unquote, good behavior here. But it's like that if that's the sneaking elephant in the room this whole time, you know, are you really creating from a place of freedom, or have you not addressed something that you just need to like entertain for a second? And it's like what Christina was saying about like, I hear you over there, little panic, right? Like, come here, let me give you a hug. We're gonna be all right. But also like, all right, if your company does tank and you do lose all your money, what would you do then? Okay, cool. You have a game plan. Even if it's uncomfortable, I got to move back in with my parents, but whatever it might be. I got to take my kid out of the school that they're in or whatever. And it's like, all right, you have a contingency plan. Now you get to go like, the go bag is ready. Let's have fun rather than like I'm trying to avoid the drowning. Like in my case, to bring it back to swim.
We like I really appreciate y'all. We probably have time for like one more like question that we can all go around and on here.
Before that, can I comment on your last one, Niiamah? Would that be okay? Okay.
Please.
Because I so resonate with it. I just am bursting because I did an exercise when I was doing ugly awkward dancing. One of my business coaches said, find a door on the internet. Like, if your business was a house, what would the door look like that people are going to come through? And I picked all these doors that didn't even look like doors because that's how different I want it to be. And uh, and then I had um, so I just took a course last fall with Natalie Ellis. Shout out to her. It's called Freedom Fast Track. It's about building a funnel. And I was her exact target audience because she said what creative people will do is they'll create a course and then they'll put it out there and a few people will do it or no one will do it. And you're like, okay, clearly the problem was the course. I'm going to build a new one. And I have a decade worth of courses. And she said, "What you're not going to be creative in that way anymore. You're going to be creative in sharing the one that you're landing on. This is going to be what you offer. You still get to be creative, but you're also going to fall in love with data and numbers." I was like, "Oh, that doesn't sound fun." But I'm doing my best to be interested in that part of it. And like Brandon said, I'm being consistently persistent. So just focusing on this and finding all the creative angles to be able to use my creativity. And it doesn't have to be new, it just needs to be consistently persistent. And it's been a very interesting way to channel energy differently.
Well, since you brought it back here, I think I want to swim in this one a little bit longer because, like, realistically, I think that has been like one. Thank you for sharing that because the questions I ask you all here, I'm asking for myself because I'm still going through this and navigating this in many different ways. And one of the things that shows up is I'm almost like trying to remind myself that like stay the course. Keep going, honing it in. And one of the things that's been really interesting to me has been this component of bringing in the numbers along the way. So I used to be a retirement actuarial consultant, right? And so I did like a lot of like calculating liabilities for organizations, and I was like, but with coaching, can I ever get that? Like no one wants the numbers and it wasn't until someone came out and said, hey, most people are afraid to go there. But with you, that ends up happening to be one of the other additional benefits that they get. It ended up like really opening up the door for me. And so as we're talking here, you're getting me to, I want to say thank you because the thank you is coming from the place of saying like, okay, it's not just like, it makes sense. I make sense. And as much as I try and sometimes force that, it is really good sometimes to also just hear it. Uh, so let's do this here. We're gonna wrap up. Um, there's a there's a large part of me that's really grateful for each of you. I want to make sure I say that here and say that in this conversation where it's you each have brought your own magic to this conversation, and I almost feel like you move in with life in like really fun way. I want to do something here where I'm gonna have us bring things together in this way. What I want to do is give each of you a chance to give what I call an outsight, right? An outsight here is not an insight, an insight's for you. An outsight is for the people listening, all right? And so if each of you could share an outsight that you have of uh, that you want outliers to walk away with, that would be really wonderful. Christina, why don't we start with you, then we'll go with Brandon, and we'll go to Chris.
Okay. Let me just go within for the insight to bring it out so I can best serve. Something that's been coming up over and over with clients recently is, and in my own life, is becoming masterful at not being attached. So one of my mentors, Dr. Sue Morter, I love her suggestion around this, so I'll share it with you. It's that we are creators creating. That is why we are here. As human beings, we're here to create, whether it's creating a beautiful meal, creating a relationship, creating a moment, creating a course or a speech or a blog, we're creating. And our job is to be in the creation of it. So, or in the creating, the active version of it. If we get attached to the creation, like what happens with the blog that I wrote, or what happens with this podcast episode, or what happens, then we have attachment and we suffer. So I keep bringing myself back to we're creating here and it feels so good. This makes me feel fully alive. And I'm so grateful to be here with all of you and feel stimulated by these ideas and your energy. So, yeah, it's to be in the creating rather than be attached to how you thought it should turn out or how you hoped it would turn out. Just be in the creating.
Thanks for
I,
that,
I like
Christina.
that. I like that. Um, So I guess to piggyback off of that, uh, I would just say I kind of want to keep it simple. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, just believe in yourself without looking at your circumstance. Um, I think sometimes we can get caught up in the now. And in the midst of the now, you still have things that you want to foresee and step into and things of that nature. And I believe you can still do it. I think that cause life can be tedious, right? It has its moments and, it can be poking at you. But I think as long as you, um, I guess you could say know your why. Like, what's your why? Like, what are you doing it for? Um, what's your purpose? What are you trying to adhere to? Um, and I, I just keep fighting. Really, I feel like I'm a little all over the place, but to sum it up, keep striving, keep fighting. Don't put your head down. Because you could get really high off your lows, just like you get high off your highs. So
Appreciate it, Brandon.
I
Thank
love
you for
that.
that. And Chris?
There's two quotes that come to mind. One is mine, one is another one I learned. The first is this is one I wrote it on my whiteboard a few weeks ago, but it's like I keep doing things that would otherwise be ill-advised. And I think there is so much input that comes to us from the world, whether we actually hired and paid for it, like a consultant or an advisor or a coach or a therapist or something like that, or just feedback you get from the feedback loop of existing in the world, social media, putting a product out. Oh, we don't like your colors, like whatever it is. And, I think we've all alluded to this idea of like, there's sometimes, I talk about this concept of gut versus data. Like sometimes your gut is just telling you something and like it doesn't make sense. And it's up to you to like do that experiment and find out what it is. It may not work, but against better advice and better judgment. But sometimes just like, yeah, I've made the thing, I've lived in the world, I have a hunch. And we're all just taking our best guess. And like, I think there's a lot of times where we feel like we're, swimming up, there it goes again, swimming upstream, right? Against like, don't do that. You should do this. Use that. And it's just, and that's where the unique things come from, I feel like. And the only other thing is just like a quote that I live by. It's a guy named Wayne Dyer, who I first heard it from, which is change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will begin to change. And it's just like something we also all alluded to is, hey, there's, a service offering. I could do it different or I could do it better. I'm going to keep like massaging. I'm going to look at it from a different angle. What if I use this language and this verbiage? Oh, what would, like asking abstract questions like, what would Prince say about your product if he was going to leave a review? And nowadays, thanks to stuff like Chat GPT, you can actually do that, right? Like I did have a client, like I was like, if Oprah was to say your thing was one of her favorite things, what would she say? And it provided so much insight, but it's like you can look at it from your sole perspective for a little bit too long from time to time. So, how many times can you change your perspective on something that's being created by you?
Well, y'all are fantastic. We're going to start wrapping up this conversation here. What I want to make sure is know that what outliers to be able to continue down the journey with you. And this time around, I'm going to couple it with something that you're doing in the world that has you out on your edge. Right. So we talked a lot about like where you've been in the past. And I realized like we never created like a lot of room for like where you're headed. What is the thing that's giving you sweaty palms right now? So if we can go around and share like what is the project that you're working on that you're really excited for, but you also don't know how it's going to work out. And then if any outlier wants to go down the journey with you going forward, what's the best way for them to contact you? Right. Why don't we start off with you, Brandon? Then we'll go to Christina. I'm making this up as we go along. Like we can go to one direction. Brandon, when to get started? What's something you're doing that really excites you? And then how can people continue on with you?
Something I'm doing now that really excites me is I also do poetry. So I am in the process of um, writing and publishing a book. Um, the book is called To Be Loved by a Writer. I feel like love is everything, and you can't get away from it even if you wanted to. Um, how can the audience reach me? Uh, Instagram. My Instagram is BTDBCEO. BT just stands for Bag Talk. That's a clothing line that I have. DB stands for Dream Big. I also do photography and videography. So that's just my brand. That's just my brand. Um, Hopefully I answered the question.
No, you got it. You got it. Thanks much, then, Brandon. Appreciate you. Christina?
Okay, so my current and permanent project that I'm working on, I'm not going to change out of, is it's called The Balm, the Body Awareness Life Makeover. And it is a combination of 3 different practices that get stuck energy moving in every area of your life. People have tremendous results going through it. And if you focus your energy, like if this was the only self-care that you did, it's more than enough. So it's a monthly membership, and my whole business is called Courageous Self-Care. And if people wanted to start on that path, you can go to my website, it's both ChristinaMarlette.com and courageousself-care.com. Either one will work. And there's a quiz there that you can take to determine if you even have stuck energy. Side note, everyone has stuck energy. That's where all our issues come from. So you can see where your energy is stuck. And then there's a webinar that you can, or a masterclass on how to get stuck energy moving. And then it leads into the balm.
That's awesome. Thank you, Christina. I
That
like
is the
the way you're
bomb.
playing.
It
Yeah.
is the balm, I know. And it's a good kind of balm.
I had to get at least one pun in here before. My practice is called visionology, and I think it's just this idea of like what kind of vision are we casting for ourselves and the people that we're creating for and with, and so on and so forth, and like how do you innovate within that ecosystem. And I got asked to create a men's group recently, and we just had our second in-person session last Saturday. And it's an edge for me because, like I grew up in a split family home and, I'm raised by a single mom. So I have a very strong, like, ease when it comes to engaging with women or feminine bodied individuals. And then I was always like, I'm curious about how I am showing up for guys. And so built out 5 modules. We meet monthly. And I want to roll that out to more places, locations, voices. We have in, just a WhatsApp community that we've created. But so it was a good edge for me to see if I can take what I do and like really explore this intersection of business and entrepreneurship and innovation and sort of this modern era of masculinity where, there's just a lot of considerations, let's call it that, that 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 are we're all in the process of adapting to. And what does that mean now, and so on and so forth. So the modules have been really great, and I'm excited to, like I said, just roll it out to more locations, people, et cetera, collaboration. So visionology is the practice. Densonology, my last name is Denson, and then ology. So I'm Densonology on Instagram. LinkedIn is really easy. Densonology at Gmail if you want to reach out. I'm sure some bot just grabbed that and now I'm going to get spam. But but I encourage anybody. I'll have a conversation with anybody about anything. To be honest with you, like that's one of my favorite things to do. Is just kind of like learn from different people's ecosystems, worlds, and worldview. So
Well, I appreciate you bringing all of your ecosystems, worlds, and worldview to this conversation here. It's been a real pleasure. You reminded us of who we are while also living out like who you are so fully. And so for that, I say thank you. And outliers, until the next time we talk, remember, be you on purpose. Journey on.